Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back with more. Well, not more. This is just kind of an update, actually, on things as they've been going on. Number one, as you can see straight off the bat, Luigi Mangione. I've talked about the perp walk they made him do, making him look like he's some supervillain from the comic books, trying to show, him as something big and evil. No. All you're doing is making him into a hero. It's not working out the way you think. And in that regards, we have an article here from the New Republic. Luigi Mangione's lawyer rips Mayor Eric Adams for the perp walk photo shoot. His attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, said New York City Mayor Eric Adams and law enforcement are using Mangione as political fodder. And they are. Yeah. Now remember, he's got two different lawyers because it's two different cases in jurisdiction that they're trying him on. There's one in Pennsylvania where he was arrested. And then, of course, the murder for state and the murder on federal charges, I think, are the two different cases they've got him on. But yeah, he's got two different lawyers for each one. But it's clear that they are just using him as a political football to toss around and say, look, here's the evil man who did everything. He didn't kill thousands and thousands of people by decision alone. Out of frustration and pain and anger, he made a very well thought out manifesto and committed a murder. Now, no murder's great at all, but it's something the people can sympathize with. They understand greatly after the way the insurance industries have been raking Americans over the coals. And they're doing everything to try to make Mangione look like this supervillain. Though, in his appearance in court, he pleads not guilty. Which is interesting. I'm like, that is highly interesting. I don't know how well it would do him. Because honestly, he did commit the murder. He knows he committed the murder, clearly in the manifesto. But he felt as if it was his last resort. He had no other options. So yeah, suspect accused of killing Brian Thompson has pleaded not guilty to murder and terrorism charges in New York State. Murder, I can say he could be charged with. Terrorism is bullshit. We all know the terrorism charges are bullshit. Period. There is no excuse for them. They know it'll help get them a more serious sentence, but the terrorism charges are utter and complete bullshit. He appeared in court Monday to be arraigned on 11 state criminal counts, including murder, as an act of terrorism. It wasn't as an act of terrorism, it was an act of frustration and last resort. Clearly. But they want to do what they can to make an example out of them. And no, it's making them into a hero is what they're doing. You cannot sit there and push for capitalism unbridled and not expect Americans who get crushed underneath hill to continue to just take it. There's going to be pushback. As well as the state level charges, he is also accused of federal, national level stalking and murder offenses that could lead to a death penalty sentence, which is bullshit. Stalking, okay. Murder, okay. But it's not a malicious intent. It's just, yeah. You know, I would be, say, maybe second degree murder. It's not a first degree in my eyes. Because he was driven by emotional pain and frustration and everything else. And that's clear as a bell. But yeah. Now, this is something that angers me. Luigi Mangione, judge, married to former healthcare executive. Pre-trial judge in case involving murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, married to a former Pfizer executive. Yeah. The magistrate judge, Catherine H. Parker, who is overseeing pre-trial hearings for Luigi Mangione, is married to a former Pfizer executive who holds hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock, including in healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies, according to her 2023 financial disclosures. That, to me, is a potential cause to dismiss the judge and ask for another one who does not have such ties. The judge's ties to the healthcare business are a stark reminder of how pervasive the for-profit industry is in American life, a point made by Mangione himself. Parker's husband, Brett Parker, left Pfizer in 2010, where he served as vice president and assistant general counsel after holding the same titles at Wyeth, a pharmaceutical manufacturer purchased by Pfizer. According to Parker's disclosures, her husband Brett still collects a pension from his time at Pfizer in the form of Senior Executive Retirement Plan, or SERP. So yeah, there's too much that they're trying to stack against him, and all they're doing is making him someone people can sympathize with. They won't necessarily agree that murder was called for, but they understand. They completely understand, because, like I said at the beginning, insurance companies have been raking Americans over the coals to make a profit. And it should never, never be that way. In fact, I know there are so many hundreds of thousands that died during the pandemic because of denials by healthcare companies. It may not just been during, it may have been after the pandemic too, but point is, yeah, they don't care about human life. They're only there for profit. And again, That's why a lot of people, they sympathize with freaking Mangione here. You're not having the effect you think you're having. But yeah. And let's not forget, there's still things going on in the world, not just Mangione. The evil in Gaza is still happening, where Israel has been committing a genocide. Plus, in a recent event here, Israeli strike kills 5 Palestinian journalists. So again, they don't care about the press, about people. For Israel, it's Palestinians are not people, which is bullshit. If you're a person, if you go through the same experiences as everyday people, you're a person, damn it. And that includes Palestinians. What you're doing is fucking genocide. It's not this mighty and great thing, no. But yeah, even the freaking Amnesty International has now agreed, yeah, Israel's committing genocide in Gaza. December 5th, Amnesty International declared that Israel is committing the crime of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Genocide is criminalized under the Genocide Convention, which Israel ratified in 1950, a year after it was recognized as a state by the United Nations. The more there is sufficient evidence to believe that Israel's conduct in Gaza following the 7th of October 2023 amounts to genocide. Amnesty is not the first organization to conclude Israel's committing genocide. Here are the other organizations who have made the same assessment. Genocide, by definition, constitutes 5 specific acts. Amnesty International has found that Israel is committing 3 of them. Killing members of a group, that's 1. 2. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to individuals from that group, 2. And 3. Deliberately bringing about conditions of life that aim to physically destroy a group in part or in whole. Amnesty has specifically condemned Israel for using starvation as a method of war, such as Act 3 that was just mentioned. As an occupying power, Israel has a legal obligation to supply population in Gaza with all basic provisions and necessities. But since Israel began its war in Gaza, I hate calling it a war, it's not, it's a genocide, following the Hamas-led attack on Israel earlier that day, which Hamas should be condemned for leading such an attack. It has cut off water, fuel, and nearly all humanitarian aid from reaching civilians in Gaza. In a damning statement 1 month after Israel began its offensive in Gaza, Al-Haq, the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, and Al-Mizan Center for Human Rights said Israel intended to wipe out the Palestinian people in whole or in part. They sounded the alarm over the clear risk of genocide Palestinians faced in Gaza, focusing on the dehumanizing rhetoric by Israeli officials. These included the words of then Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, wanted by the International Criminal Court for Crimes Against Humanity, who referred to Palestinians as human animals. See, this is very Nazi-like rhetoric. The Nazi victims have become the Nazis. Israeli President Isaac Herzog also declared there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. Again, very Nazi-like rhetoric. The CCR, the Center for Constitutional Rights in the U.S., is a U.S.-based legal advocacy fighting for civil rights since 1966 that has also said Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. On October the 18th, 2023, CCR released a legal analysis on Israel's violation of the Genocide Convention and also criticized the U.S. administration. The U.S. government has supplied about 69% of weapons Israel uses to assault Gaza, including large, non-precision bombs that inflict disproportionate suffering on civilians, fighter jets, and other artillery. Yeah, and it's only going to get worse. Believe it or not, Biden was the moderate voice. Trump's going to be even worse. He says he wants them to end it right now. Get it done with. Take them out. And he's willing to give them whatever they want. Yeah. It's only going to get worse now that Trump's going to be in office. But, speaking of the First Lady coming into office, Donald, who's married to Elon. Yeah, they're going to make things so terrible just coming into office. The wealthiest administration to ever take office. Period. So many billionaires, so many powerful people. And people are still like, no, he's for me. No, he is not. He has never been. He has never been for the average person. With that said, let's have a piece of good news. From inequality.org, 10 inequality victories in 2024. 1. Labor breakthrough in the South. Volkswagen workers in Chattanooga, Tennessee voted overwhelmingly in April to join the United Auto Workers, a landmark win for labor organizing in the South. Something Trump and Elon are both against, and many of the members of Trump's cabinet are against organizing. The region has suffered deeply because of the low-road anti-union economic model. 7 out of the 10 states with the highest levels of poverty are in the South, according to the Economic Policy Institute. Another United Auto Worker election at a Mercedes-Benz facility in Vance, Alabama, where management was more aggressively anti-union, went the other way in May, but the union has vowed to continue organizing in the region. This is a David versus Goliath fight. Sometimes Goliath wins a battle, but David wins the war. That was said by Sean Fain, the UAW president, after the Mercedes-Benz loss. 2. Union momentum at Amazon. Organizing workers at Amazon, now the nation's second largest private employer, has been a white whale of a labor movement for years, aside from the breakthrough union election win in Staten Island, puncturing the e-commerce giant's anti-labor strategy has been challenging. That is, until this year, when the Teamsters made sizable gains. The National Labor Relations Board ruled this summer that Amazon should be considered a joint employer of delivery drivers it subcontracts, opening up that class of workers to organize. And organize they did. According to the Teamsters, over 5,000 drivers have joined the union at 9 Amazon locations. Warehouse workers have made advances as well. In California, Amazon employees in San Francisco and the company's air hub in San Bernardino are now demanding union recognition. Remember, the National Labor Relations Board was led by Lena Khan, who was making some of the biggest jumps for workers. People can say all they want about Biden being a horrible leader, but there were members who he had assigned to certain places who were doing a damn good job, like Lena Khan. But yeah, number 3, grocery mega merger blocked. For the past 2 years, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union has led a coalition of more than 100 organizations against the proposed merger of grocery giants Kroger and Albertsons. The union predicted a mega merger would result in lost jobs, closed stores, food deserts, and higher prices. By contrast, corporate executives stood to make a killing. At Albertsons alone, the proposed merger agreement would have delivered as much as $146 million to the firm's top 10 officials. Just 10 people would get $146 million out of that deal. On December the 10th, one federal court judge and another in Washington state sided with the Federal Trade Commission, another organization that has, well, Lena Khan's the head of the FTC, so it was the other guy who was leading the NLRB, National Labor Relations Board. But yeah, on December the 10th, one federal court judge and another in Washington state sided with Federal Trade Commission and issued temporary injunctions against the deal. The following day, Albertsons threw in the towel on what would have been the biggest grocery store merger in U.S. history. We do not need to go further back into the days of trusts and monopolies. This is the first time the FTC has ever sought to block a merger, not just because it's going to be bad for consumers, but also for workers, Lena Khan, who was the FTC chair, said. Yeah, the guy who's in charge of the National Labor Relations Board is good too. I can't remember his name for the life of me, though. Both Biden assignees. But of course, who hates them? Trump and Elon, because they block some of the stupid deals like would have been Albertsons and Kroger. Ballot wins on taxes, wages, paid leave. Despite the red wave, it wasn't a wave, it was a red crest. Yeah, there was no wave. Voters in several states passed ballot initiatives to adopt inequality fighting policies that most Republican politicians oppose. In the red states of Nebraska, Missouri, and Alaska, voters approved guaranteed paid leave, while Missouri and Alaska also paid state minimum wage hikes, passed state minimum wage hikes. So yeah, I mean, Washington State voters rejected a hedge fund financed ballot proposal to repeal the state's path-breaking capital gains tax on the rich. They also beat back an effort to gut a state-operated long-term care insurance program. In Illinois, voters adopted a non-binding measure expressing support for an extra 3% tax on the income of over $1 million. So yeah, you know, when you leave it up to the regular people, they vote for what would be left-leaning ideas. Better work, better wages, better benefits, better treatment. They like certain things they have. They want to keep them. Most of your big business and Republican people, though, are not for that. And again, I know there's going to be some dumbasses who want to go, oh, you're Democrats, well. I don't care about the Democrats. I am left. Democrats are not left. They are center corporate. You're just so propagandized that's all you can figure out is left, because there's only two viable parties in the fucking country right now. Which is another thing that needs to end. There's the far right in the Republicans, and there's the center corporatist in the center corporatist in the Democrats. There is no left-leaning party that is viable right now. There's the Green Party, but it don't even get its much of a message out. It's only because people have been so frustrated that they're getting some votes. Same with the Libertarians. TurboTax got turbo-trounced. 2024, for the first time ever, over 100,000 Americans filed their tax returns digitally directly to the IRS. The agency's direct file system went live in 12 pilot states, breaking the dominance that for-profit tax preparation companies have enjoyed for years. This is an important fight to ensure greedy tax prep companies don't continue to rake in money from filers who are simply doing their civic duty, wrote public citizen Susan Harley for inequality.org. Direct file also advances racial justice. Color of Change and the Groundwork Collaborative exposed how Intuit's TurboTax and H&R Block target black and low-income communities for costly and unnecessary services. Unfortunately, this fight is not over. House Republicans are urging President-elect Trump to kill the IRS's free direct file service on day one of his second administration. Again, Trump is not for the average American. I don't know why people cannot get this through their head. I know, yes, it was painful under Biden with the prices, but a lot of that was the policies Trump set in place. You know, but it doesn't matter. Clearly, what the previous guy did, it changes automatically, magically from that president. No, that's not how things work. I know we live in a much faster moving age, but there's still a lot of effect from what happened in the last term that's going to happen in the next term. And people don't seem to understand this. Biden's worker protection spree. Again, Biden, while I would not say his presidency was the best, we did have inflation issues, we did have Gaza. A lot of other decisions he did make were very good and actually did a lot to help people. Biden adopted a range of path-breaking executive actions to protect U.S. workers, including safeguards against toiling in extreme heat, broader overtime pay coverage, and new measures protecting organizing rights. He also authorized rules to crack down on bosses who misclassify employees as independent contractors or force them to sign non-compete agreements. The beauty of executive actions, no need for congressional approval. The downside, next president has the power to roll them back. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the legislation has gone to the president because Congress can't seem to get its head out of its own ass to agree to make actual legislation that's good for the people. Usually it's partisan as fuck, and it only helps certain people. It is not for the benefit of everyone. Will that happen under Trump, a self-declared but dubious champion of the working class? Yeah, he's not a champion of the working class. He's lied over and over. We shall see. In the meantime, the National Employment Law Project and several other organizations have put together a guide on how state policymakers could enact similar standards at the sub-federal level. Grounding private jets. Did you know that private jets pollute 10 to 20 times more per passenger than commercial planes? Yeah, because they usually carry far less. And the typical private jet owner with a net worth of nearly $200 million actually pays a far smaller share of air safety fees than commercial coach passengers, according to the Institute on Policy Study Research. Again, it's that privilege the rich get for being rich over the rest of people. And yeah, it's just not right. In 2024, Stop Private Jet Expansion, a 100 organization coalition, won 2 major victories in their campaign to block the expansion of New England's largest private jet airport, Hanscom Field, outside Boston, Massachusetts. State rejected the developer's environmental impact submission, demanding supplemental information. So yeah. As part of the comprehensive climate bill, the state legislature also updated the charter of Massport, the agency that will decide the future of the airport, to require them to consider carbon emissions and climate change in their decision making. Private jets should be held to the same fucking standards as the public. Period. Arming millions of Davids against Wall Street Goliaths. Elon Musk has called for deleting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, You know, the group that has helped give Americans some of their money back when it's been swindled out by corporations through shady means. That's what's his problem with this federal agency? Musk and his finance bro buddies, it appears the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has been overly effective in helping ordinary Americans stand up to big money interests. Recently, the agency announced it's forcing shady credit repair companies to return $1.8 billion in illegal junk fees to 4.3 million Americans. The agency also just issued new limits on overdraft fees that will save consumers billions more. During its nearly 14-year history, the CFPB has won nearly $21 billion in compensation for victims of fraud, racial discrimination in lending, and other financial abuse, weakening the CFPB, slowing its work, and steering it to favor industry over the public interest, explains the advocacy group Americans for Financial Reform, would give bad actors a green light to do their worst and further deepen this country's racial wealth gap. Just wealth gap and period. Public money for public good. For 4 decades, procurement rules made it difficult for local and state policymakers to ensure that federally funded projects create good jobs, with mega billions in new public investment about to flow into infrastructure and clean energy projects. A labor community alliance known as the Local Opportunities Coalition led the charge to get rid of these anti-worker vestiges of the conservative Reagan era. Finally, in 2024, the Biden administration got the job done. Now, state and local governments can give companies a leg up in bidding competitions if they commit to creating specific numbers of jobs with minimum levels of pay and benefits. They can also require hiring preferences for local workers in disadvantaged communities, ban the use of contract funds for union busting, and prohibit employers from misclassifying workers as independent contractors to skirt labor laws. Yeah, again, while there's a lot of fucked up things Biden did, his administration did do a number of good things. Communities standing up for quality care. Whatever happens on the national political stage over the next 4 years, local communities can still win important fights for a more just society. With one particularly inspiring example from 2024, the battles to protect county-owned nursing homes in rural Wisconsin against privatization. Study after study has shown that private equity-owned facilities have lower quality care and higher mortality rates, and yet many Republican lawmakers are backing for-profit corporations' efforts to take over this critical service. As veteran community organizer George Gohl has reported, the Wisconsin seniors put up a strong fight this year. They succeeded in ousting pro-privatization members of at least 3 county boards and are continuing to organize to protect their health care from corporate greed. Champions in the fight against inequality face formidable challenges, but by working together at all levels, from the shop floor to state houses, in the halls of Congress, we can still find ways to build power and move our country towards a just economy that works for everyone. So, yeah. I just had to point out some of the beautiful things that have been done, because the other news I know was so much of a friggin' downer. Trump, the way they're trying to prosecute Mangione, and the fact that Israel's still committing a genocide with supplies we give them. But yeah. Anyway, let's end this episode here. This video here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting these sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.